Explain why illegal activation of TTT is different than trying to fuse with poly and being forced to fuse something else. What do you mean? I think you are both wrong, honestly. I'm not sure. So, like, the way it is... Okay, hold up. This is just a replay. Let me go full screen. So, I understand what you're arguing about. If... I think... But I'm not 100% sure on this one. So one thing I know for sure... is if you activate talents and you choose the effect to draw, but you couldn't do that because of like prosperity active or whatever, you are not forced to activate a different effect. It's an illegal activation and it goes back to your hand. Why? That's the rule. You don't force your opponent to target a different card. The thing is, I believe the people saying, for example, with the polymerization example or something like that, I'm not sure if you guys are correct either. Because there's another thing that I also think I know is, for example, your opponent has a monster that can be targeted and a monster that can't be targeted because of some reason. Let's say the monster just says this card can't be targeted with card effects. If you activate a card that targets and you try to target the illegal, like the card that can't be targeted, and then your opponent is like, you can't target that, I think you are also not forced to target the other card. I think in that case, you also take it back. Even though it is technically a card that can legally be activated right now. But still, your opponent is activating the card with the intention to target that card. And that is an illegal activation. You can't activate this card targeting this card. That is not a legal activation. And so that complete everything goes back. You cannot force them to target the other card. You cannot force them to target the other card. It doesn't work like that. At least not anymore, for sure. I'm pretty sure that is not the case anymore. Now, the poly example is another interesting one. Because on poly, nothing happens at activation, right? Poly is always a legal activation. So I'm not sure about the polymerization argument. So because it's an interesting question, actually. It's worth talking about. Like, if you activate poly, let's say you want to make a... let's say you're playing Branded and you activate polymerization and you want to make a Guardian Chimera, but by using 3 monsters from your hand, which you can't do, right? But you don't have any monsters on the field, right? You activate Poly and you try to summon Guardian Chimera with 3 monsters from your hand, and your opponent is like, you can't summon that. But you could fuse another monster with the cards in your hand. Are you then forced to summon another monster? And honestly, I don't know exactly if you have to. I feel like in that case, because the activation was completely legal, you didn't target anything illegal, you didn't do anything illegal yet. I think in that case, you would have to. And I think that would make sense. So if anyone knows better, because you haven't done anything illegal at activation. The activation was completely legal. You can perform a fusion summon. Just in resolution, you're picking the wrong fusion. So I think in that case it would be different. But I hope we can all see the difference between the poly example and the talents example, and also the targeting a card that can't be targeted example. They are different scenarios. If the activation of polymerization is legal, then yes, you will resolve it. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That's how I would personally interpret it as well, but yeah. If you activate Poly to illegally summon something, you take back the action. You are only forced to special summon something different if your opponent changed something that makes it... I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. If I activate Poly, nothing illegal has happened that needs to be taken back. I don't think you're correct on this one. Poly is the same as Swap Proc not having other targets? Yeah, probably. Like, if you activate Swap Frog, and then you realize you don't have anything left in the deck to send, you have to send the Swap Frog from the field. You can't just be like, oh, I didn't realize I had nothing left in the deck. I don't want to use it now. Because that's the same as the Poly. Right? Like, activate Swap Frog to send an Aqua from field or a deck to the graveyard, and then I look at my deck and I'm like, there's no Aqua. So I have to send a Swap Frog from the field. I can't just be like, oh no, I activated it with the intention to send from the deck, so I'm gonna take it back. There's no way that's that. There's no way. There's no way that's how it works. You just have to send the Swap Frog then, and you also have to fuse something else with Poly. Like if you do something illegal, but then turns out you just have to do something different at resolution. That's totally within the rules. You have to do that. Can you say that there is no takebacks for Imperm because there are legal targets? No. The difference is, I assume you mean if there's a card that can be targeted and a card that can't be targeted. The difference is, hold up. Page 20. Okay. Illegal actions must be retracted. An illegal action must be retracted. A duelist declares they will perform a link sum of Nightmare Phoenix. They send 2 copies of Mystical Shine Ball. Okay, that requires different names. Where's the Imperm one? Third one. Duelist A has Skull Servant and an Access Code Talker in his graveyard. He activates Monster Reborn from his hand and targets the Access Code Talker. Duelist B has no response. The Duelist A summons the monster. Soon after resolving the effect, Duelist B realizes that he negated the link summon of Access Code Talker with Solemn Warning. Since the card was an illegal target, the entire activation of Monster Reborn was illegal. Access Code Talker should be returned to the graveyard and the Monster Reborn should be returned to the hand. Duelist A is not forced to target the Skull Servant in his graveyard. So even if you have a different legal target for the card, it is still not a legal activation because targeting, just look at it this way, chat. Look at it this way. Targeting is part of the activation. Targeting is part of activating the card. So if you target an illegal card at activation, the entire activation is illegal. The entire thing is illegal. The entire process of activating Monster Reborn includes selecting a target. And if you select an illegal target, it's illegal. The entire thing is illegal, and so the card goes back to your hand. The difference with polymerization, the reason why polymerization is completely different is because when you activate polymerization, you are not declaring anything. You're not declaring a target. You're not declaring what you try to summon. You activate the card, and at that point, it's legal. It's a legal activation. Activating Monster Reborn on something that can't be targeted for Monster Reborn, not a legal summon, not legal. Activating Poly, legal. Do you see the difference? Activate Poly, legal. Activate something, targeting something that can't be targeted, not legal. It's not that hard to see. But if I accidentally do something illegal at resolution, it's still an illegal play and will be reverted. Yes, if you activate, let's say you activate Poly. Let's say you activate Poly and you summon something that can't be summoned. You have to take it back, but the key difference here is not everything will be reversed. If you have a legal fusion, you still resolve Poly for a different monster. If the activation was legal and you did something illegal at resolution, we're not going back to the activation. We're going back to the resolution.